Hello, welcome everyone. As a part of this video, what we would be learning is the SAP HANA database that we just created as a part of our earlier video. We would be seeing how we can deploy this SAP HANA database application onto a cloud foundry, or I can say SAP HANA Cloud Database. Okay, so we learned that for a database to be reusable, for us to modularize our application, for us to have a centralized database which can be used by multiple dashboard or transactional kind of applications, we need a centralized SAP HANA database. We already created an application as a part of which we created a table, HANA database views, multiple roles. If you didn't get a chance to go through that video, you can find the link in the description. Please try to go through that video so you can get a clear picture on the deployment as well. Okay. Now, I hope we all are on the same page. We all know how we can create a SAP HANA database application. Now, the question comes, how this application can be made public? How I can have this database which is reusable and which would be visible to other applications? How I can deploy this application? Now, there are certain prerequisites. Okay. So there are certain prerequisites. The first one I can think of is I would need a SAP HANA Cloud Database. If I just go in my BTP account, if you just go in your SAP HANA trial account, you would be able to log into your sub account. Within your sub account, you would find a Cloud Foundry environment running. So this is one of the prerequisites. You should have a Cloud Foundry enabled for you to deploy it to the SAP HANA database. Second, as we are already discussing on the SAP HANA database, what we would need is a SAP HANA database. So if we go in the dev space here, you would be finding SAP HANA Cloud. So this SAP HANA Cloud database, as you have already seen how we can create the HANA database. If you don't have a SAP HANA database instance running till now, you can create one using SAP HANA database instance. So this is something that we would need for connecting, or I can say for deploying our application to this HANA cloud. There should be a cloud for you to deploy something on that. For example, it is having 30 GB of capacity and 120 GB of storage. So on this, we would be deploying our application. So ensure you do have these two things. In case you do have already created that, if you click on the actions, you would find one more thing. You would find the statistics of the application. So if you just go with the sign in with default identity provider, you should be able to find the same database over here, SAP HANA DB. Secondly, that database should also be in a running mode. If the database is not in a running state, as you can see, this is in a running state. But if you are working on a trial version, you would also observe that after 24 hours, SAP ideally shuts down this particular database instance for a better performance for the other trial users. In case that is the case, you can directly say click on these three dots, and if the database is stopped, you can find an option called start. Here I am not able to find an option of start because my database is already in running mode. Okay, so this is something that you have to ensure. So two things we mentioned. One, you would need a Cloud Foundry enabled and a SAP HANA database up and running. Then if you just go over here, try to go to the terminal mode. Here I am able to find my project. So ensure you are in the project directory of yours. Okay. Once you do have that, what you can do is you can try to log in to your Cloud Foundry. So as I mentioned, you would need a Cloud Foundry. Okay. But even if you do have and you have not connected that, then it does not make any sense. Right. So you should be connecting to this particular API endpoint. So what you can do is you can say CF login. And either you can say enter and pass your username and password, or other way would be you can directly say -- SSO. So it would go with a single sign-on. And you would be able to get the passcode at this link. Just click on this, or let's just copy this, and yeah, I just clicked on that with a control click. The moment you say sign in with default identity provider, you would get this authentication code. Click over here, it's a copy, paste it over here and say enter, it would log in. While pasting, that particular passcode won't be visible, it's in a hidden format. Okay. So once you have done this, open your empty YML file. Now what we are expecting over here is, after we deploy our application, we should have this service up and running. We should have this data container up and running as well. So there are two steps for that. First one would be, just right click on your MTA YML file, say build MTA project. If you see, it is just starting with the build of your project. In some time, this MTA file, if you see, this MTA YML file has now been converted into a MTA archives files. Can you see a new folder getting generated? The naming convention of which would be the name of the project along with the version. Okay, so in case you are doing multiple changes for after your production deployment, or there are a few changes you are keep on doing, try to keep on changing this version number. It would allow you to generate an updated archival file. This is what we can see. Now just again right click on this and say deploy this MTA archive. The moment you say that, if you have already logged in on your Cloud Foundry, you would directly find that it's starting with the deployment on your dev space. Now it is creating a service which is for the MTA resource. What is that? HDI MT BTP DBMM. Can you see it as a resource? So it is creating a service for your resource, because once the resource is generated, then only your backend service would be able to generate, or your backend process would be able to start itself, right? So if you see, it is creating your database container. Just try observing the log. In case in future, due to some reason, it is failing, you would be able to identify the root cause as well only from the log. So it is attempting to create your database container. It is saying it is trying to create one resource, 0 of 1 done. As it's a ongoing process, it might take some time because it is writing multiple copy. It is creating your table, your view, your roles, everything on the centralized database HANA Cloud. So it might take some time. But if you see 1 of 1 done, it means the data container is now created. Now what it would do is, it would go to the modules and would try to create a service BTP DBMM. So if you see, it is creating an application from this, and it would, once the application service has been created, it would try to start that particular service. So we would wait for the service also to be generated, and we would get a message process finished. That's what we are waiting for. So if you see, once the service starts, it starts, then scale. When I say scaling, it would assign the required amount of memory to that. Then it would do the staging. So finally, your service should be start up and running. It might take couple of minutes. So can you see, it is executing the task deploy for this particular service. So it's now getting deployed on the Cloud Foundry. Now I do have a message saying process successfully finished. So if I just go over here, try to again refresh my dev space. Earlier there were 4 applications which were running. Now if you see, I do have 5 application and 7 service instances running. So that particular new service which I just created started here. All the DB modules you would find in a stop state. And in case your service is running for more than 24 hours on a trial account, service system would automatically stop that. That's why you are finding it like this. Now, if I just go over here, can you see BTP DBMM? That's a database. And if I just open this, this is for your knowledge. In case due to some reason it stops or stops working, you can check the logs in the logs registry. Here you are able to find that it is generating the schema and everything what we just mentioned, right? That every for each and every activity that is ongoing, you would be able to find the log over there. Now let's just go to SAP HANA Cloud and just click on Actions, open the SAP HANA Database Explorer. It would allow you to explore, it would allow you to view the database schema, view the database container that you created, right? So if I am going over here, with which name I can start searching with? I can search for HDI BTP DBMM. That's what I should be looking for. I do have default admin over here. If I just say plus, if I just say plus, here you would find multiple database instances. I can search for HDI containers because what I am searching for is called HDI container. Can you see the instance? I can just click on this, just say OK. And if you just open this, this is your whole database schema. It is containing all the database object that we created. Roles is something that won't be visible publicly. Why is that so? Because if I do have a centralized database, if its roles are also visible publicly, then definitely it's no longer secure. Okay, so role is something that won't be visible publicly, but you would be able to find other database artifact. For example, we created a table. For example, we do have BTP product. If you click on this, you would find that as a part of this schema, I do have a database table which has ID, name, category like this. If I click on view, I would also be able to find that view over here. Okay. If you just say right click, here you would be also able to see generate insert statement. So in case you want to play around with this particular data, or I can say table that just got generated and view its data, for example, over here, you would be able to do that. I would create a dedicated video as a part of which I would help you understand the SAP HANA Database Explorer, what all component does it have and how we can utilize this. Okay, so this is all that we do have for this particular video. We do have our HANA database application which is now no longer local but it is public, deployed, up and running. In upcoming video, I would also plan to show you how you can utilize Database Explorer, as well as we would be connecting this particular centralized database we created in multiple transactional and dashboard applications. So I hope you like the video. If you like the video, don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and hope to see you all again in my upcoming video, as a part of which we would be progressing in our journey. Thank you for joining.